we go.
Here you go.
I think.
There we are.
Hey,
Hey,
how
dude.
are you? I'm
How's...
good.
Yeah, good to
How
hear.
is how is going your preparation for the talk you have? Like it's
Do you
supposed to
want
be in a
me?
few days
Do you
now.
want a sneak peek? Yeah, it's gonna be. It's gonna be this Sunday, I think. Yeah, it's this Sunday. I can show.
Oh,
I have. I've actually made some stuff happen. Let's see. It was on that screen. That screen share. So I made some stuff. Like I've pretty much finished up the base of the talk, and now I'm just refining it. So I'm kind of just going through
mm-hmm.
all the different things I'm gonna talk about and just like repeating it over and over because I have like 30 or 40 minutes or something like that to talk
Mm-hmm.
about testing and stuff like that. And so I just want to make sure that I kind of know what I'm gonna say. Usually, I honestly, when I usually make my videos, I never like rehearse, but now I'm figuring I'll show them a little bit more respect than just kind of going in without knowing what I'm supposed to say. Like I could probably do it without knowing exactly what I'm gonna say, but I just wanted to make sure that I'm in the time slot because I have 30 to 40 minutes or something like that, and now I think I can do this talking like just about 40 minutes. I want to slim it down because, in my opinion, if I can slim it down to just be 30 minutes, that would be probably the best thing.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, the she was gonna send me the details for this stuff. It's like, what is it? It's this thing here, right? No, that's not it. It's, let's see here. It's, yeah, it's the Node.js Global Summit agendas. There's some updates. Yeah, I was gonna send her some slides and stuff like that. But yeah, see, it's pretty cool. There's list of topic. Here it is. This I think is the thing. Yeah, so it's May 30th, and there's a bunch of people who's gonna join in here, and like different talks from different companies and stuff like that.
Could you send me the link in the or
Yeah,
maybe I can.
sure.
Uh,
I'm not sure if this
Thank
is
you.
the I'm not sure if this is the sign up link.
Okay,
Doesn't matter. Let's. But yeah.
thank you.
So basically, that's gonna be it. So there are two tracks, one free tier and one paid tier, which is the senior track and the junior track, and I'm on the junior track because I figured
Mm-hmm.
I might as well. Yeah, here it is exactly. So all the information should be here.
Mm-hmm.
There's tons of different slots and stuff like that. I think that I'm on the creating how to stop hating tests with just super test and cipher. This guy here, I should have paired with him because my talk is very similar. Well, it's not similar to this, but it's a very similar sort of thing, right? Doesn't matter.
Can be.
It should be here. I think. Let's leave this for now. But yeah, so that's practically what's gonna happen.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I feel pretty good. I mean, I do this all the time, so it's not gonna be that hard. It's more about making sure that I
You
have
do it all the time. What does it mean? Like each month you have some speech or?
No, I don't do I do presentations fairly often. Like I since I have this YouTube thing, like it's no diff like this thing here is no for me at least it's no different from just making another video. The only difference is that I'm gonna do it live instead of record it. But since I literally always do everything in one take, and if I fuck it up, I just redo I just throw the whole thing away and I start over. I don't like edit or anything like that, so everything I do
Uh-huh.
is like one try, and that's exactly why I do this. Because if now I get a request for, oh, can you go and like do this presentation at this thing, and I kind of go, yeah, sure, because I'm accustomed to just going, like just start talking. And the problem is stopping. That's my problem. I can't.
Yeah, I noticed that. Sometimes I was wondering if you are like making some of the videos like because I heard about this magic timestamp, like it'd be the video around 10 minutes long or something.
Mm.
So and some of the YouTubers are actually like artificially making those videos longer. And I noticed that you are able to in lots of the videos, or few I noticed, you are able uh, to deliver the main information like pretty quickly, and then you kind of like iterating over it like a few times maybe again. So I was just wondering if you are watching that time, 10 minutes time, or as
No,
well, or yeah.
I have a rough idea of what I'm gonna say. If it depends on the video, usually it's the same. Like I do the same thing for each of them. Like if I'm in the bathtub, it's just literally I write down the questions that people ask me, or if there's other questions that I've found that I know that people want to get answers to, then I literally just put it on my phone, read it, and then I go. That's literally
Hmm.
the whole process. And then after that, the only editing I do is like just start, finish, put some walking videos in between, and that's it. That's
Hmm.
like the entire editing process for one such video is like 10 minutes total, maybe something like that.
Ah, that's good. That's good.
And but the like the mark, I don't really think about that all that much. All I really try to hit for is like 8 minutes around that, because I figured that's around a normal good conversation. Because if I go on for too long, I mean, I can probably go on and on about stuff, but at some point people are going to lose interest, and it really doesn't matter all that much to me, because I think that the average view time I have on these videos that I make is usually like half of the video anyway, so it's like I don't, to
Are they
me,
really? Hmm.
yeah.
Interesting.
But that's usually how it goes. It doesn't, like, if the 10-minute mark is my guess, just so that the algorithm would favor your stuff more. But since the content that I create isn't really suited for YouTube in the way that most YouTube videos are, because YouTube is more about high quality videos, like archives, where like the stuff that is really really well made is usually the thing that goes viral or gets really really popular, and I don't really
Hmm.
care about that stuff. It doesn't really matter to me. How?
10 minutes editing time for a video is like okay. I like keyboards, and I follow this another guy who talks a lot about the keyboards, and he has a lot of cuts and so on. And he's claiming that for each minute of the video, he usually spends 1 hour editing it,
Yep.
which is like wow.
Yeah, and but this is the exactly the thing that I decided to never do, or at the very least
Yeah,
not do it for. It's
I can understand you.
but that's the problem. Like it's the same thing with there's another guy in Sweden who's his name is he calls himself MPJ. He has a channel called Fun Functions. He used to work for Spotify. It was in Stockholm, so not in the Gothenburg office. So I haven't met him yet,
Hmm.
but like I met the people here at in Gothenburg, and it's the same thing with him. Like he puts real effort and energy into making the video really really high quality, and that's great if you're after views or if you want to make a really good channel. But it's impossible to produce daily videos and high quality videos at the same time, and that's the problem. Like you can pick either you try to answer all the questions people have and like try to really go for education, or you go for quality videos, and you can't have both. I'm sorry to say. So, but I promise
Oh,
you, the same.
but your channel is, I would say, it is pretty good. I mean, like not that you would have like these magic effects and cuts and whatever, but it is a food for thought. At least for me, it was. Like
Oh,
few
thank
of
you.
those topics you were talking about was like when I heard it, it was like, yeah, of course it is so. But you have like multiple times those things which kind of like underneath the surface, and they kind of doesn't exist until someone points them out.
Yep.
I at least and yeah, so that
I call it the exclamation mark theory, or there's probably a nicer name
Uh-huh.
for it. But basically, what I say that this is an idea I've had since I was a kid, and I've noticed that over and over. So most people will not be aware of certain things unless you point at them and say, "This is a
Yeah,
problem.
right.
This is a thing." Because you can go your entire life without actually having that connection and like, "Oh, that's why we do this." I mean, I've had that happen to me many, many times where I like, "Oh." Someone points out to me that the reason why that clicking sound when I want to cross the street, there's a clicking sound in that the light makes when it's red, or so
Hmm.
when it's green, and when it's red it's very slow. And I was never thought about why that was. And then someone pointed out and said, yeah, it's because if you're blind you don't see the light. So if you hear the sound, you know when to walk and when to stop. And I was like, that is probably right there. Yeah, that's exactly why. Yeah, okay, so now I get it. That's exactly what I tried to do. But let's get into it. So
All right.
I was thinking that we should today get a little bit more advanced than we have so far. Don't worry,
Ooh.
like we're not gonna do.
I'm excited.
Oh, you're
I'm all
excited, all
for it.
right. Well, that's
Let's
awesome
do it.
because that's exactly what I like to see. It's the same thing with me. It's like I try to be excited rather than anything else because it's
You
fun to
know,
learn programming.
with me, even when I was playing games, I always started with the nightmare or whatever
What?
that, because yeah,
Okay.
because I really like I don't know, I like to fail and then try again and like, because then I felt that I'm improving somehow. I know, in
I
games.
can't. This is yeah. And yes, I will give you that. But I'm like when I play my computer games, I play to have fun and like to have like especially a story. I'm very about story. That's why I don't play like Dark Souls or Sekiro or whatever it's called. Those
Hmm.
sorts of games because that is about pain and misery and anger and being fucked over so many times until you finally learn that magical combination of things you need to do
Yeah.
to beat the boss so that you can progress to the
Yeah.
next guy and do the whole thing all over again.
Yeah.
It's like being at work,
That's true.
but worse.
Yeah, but don't get me wrong, I don't do it anymore because it takes like too much time,
I
and
still play computer
it's
games,
like,
dude. I was playing
yeah.
computer games
Well, I
before.
do, but what I mean, I don't search for the difficulty now too much in the games.
Okay.
You know,
Normal is fine with me. Hard
yeah,
if I played it twice.
it end up with me having like some records in Czech Republic for some like arcade game or whatever, and it was like, oh, and that was unbeaten for, last time I checked, it was unbeaten for like 8 years or whatever.
Is this your very subtle way of bragging about your EPIN or your street cred in the digital community? Because I will
Now
take
I
you
would say
down.
that
I
that's
was like the
not.
high warlord guy of Star Wars: The Old Republic when that was a thing. So don't you come
Oh
talking to me.
no, don't say that, because you are st stealing my. I wanted to point out that it is not bragging. Now I see it more like my stupidity that I invest so much time in
Well,
such a
okay, I can relate to that.
such a thing.
I did fuck up a lot of my education due to the fact that I played way too much World of Warcraft.
Oh, I can tell you stories.
But let's save the reminiscing for later because we need to get started
Yeah,
with the project. So,
yeah.
if you share your screen, I'm
Mm-hmm.
thinking that you get the pick of the two. Either we start
First,
talking today about how to use Redux and what that's all about, or
mm-hmm.
we build something from absolute scratch. We set up like there's no create React app. We actually we start with an empty directory and we go from there. And then I walk you through that. These are
Yeah.
the two things.
We were talking about about the Redux, but I like the basics first. So maybe doing everything from scratch and see which parts are involved maybe speaks to me more
Mm-hmm.
right now. And could you please enable screen sharing?
Oh,
It says
damn.
it's
I
disabled.
I still have no. Like I promise at some point, if this thing that we're doing here becomes a more like
Oh,
regular
someone
thing.
actually liked it. I was like, oh,
Yeah, exactly. There was there
hey.
were a few people who's like, yeah, this was really nice, and I was like, yeah,
Hmm.
I told you it would
Yeah,
be really nice.
it
What
was
was
nice
the
to see.
thing that I did last time? Allow record? No. Forbid record. Oh, okay. So no, that's not what I want.
Yeah, record.
It was the screen share thing. Let's see
Mm-hmm.
here. Close out.
Probably.
Share screen. Can share simultaneously. Advanced sharing option. All participant, but you should be able to share. Like I have already enabled. Have you
I
tried?
should be.
Yeah. Can you?
Oh, now I can. Yeah.
Oh, okay, cool. Let's blow this thing
Share.
up a little bit so that we have the
Okay.
whole screen. Nice, so we can see all the things. Okay, so this is the last project that we had, right? So I'm thinking,
Yes, sir.
let's go back and create a new project, and this time we can just call that project Hello World. And this time we're not going to use Create React App because we're hardcore. We're doing this as real.
Hardcore.
Yeah, exactly. That's how it's all
Love
about.
it.
That's what I'm all about.
Okay,
Why make
so
things
we
easy when they can be
will
unnecessarily
empty project.
complicated?
Oh, here we go. So
Empty project. Nice.
Next, hello world.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the purpose of this project is pretty much just to get us from, all right, there's absolutely nothing at all in our directory, and now we have a working React application that just says hello world or something like that. I love my silhouette look in the camera. It makes me look very mysterious and
Oh yeah,
like,
it's like you have from these videos when they disguise the identity of some like hacker or
of a hacker. I'm glad that you
criminal.
said hacker because I was going to say rape victim or something like that. Something
That
horrible.
was the
Something
second
horrible.
thing I was
Yeah.
going for.
Exactly. Something horrible like that. I have been someone who has scammed someone with some ex-criminal. Yeah. Hey, princess. I'm sorry. I'm not talking to you. I'm talking to my girlfriend. She's over there. But you can be princess too if you want.
I'm afraid the princess is in another cast.
All right. So React folder name. Okay, yeah. So let's create that.
Okay,
And let's just jump right in.
There should be. Oh, okay. Yes. That will work.
Wait a tick.
Does not exist. We'll create it. Okay, so that's not what I meant. So this.
These are the times where I feel like I should be better at selling in my opinions about what people should be using. Because I try to be objective, and objectively this is fine, but inside I feel, why isn't he using Visual Studio Code? Like why? Like just why? Why? Or Sublime. Sublime is fine.
That is this is IntelliJ.
I know, and it's absolutely horrible for front end work. If you ask me,
really?
No, it's not horrible. It's just that a full-fledged IDE is always, I think, is always so heavy when I'm dealing with something as lightweight as scripting languages. That's me.
I can use Emacs if you want.
Oh God, no! Don't use Emacs. Well, there's nothing wrong with Emacs per se. I have this standing fight with a coworker of mine who loves Emacs, and I love to like trash talk him because
it's okay.
I keep telling him nothing that is that generic can be the best at some in the same way as something that is very specific, and we love dishing it out.
It did suck at Java development for a long time. Now there's one smart guy which actually provided like IDE features for Emacs. So
okay,
yeah, well, we'll see.
But the project structure, we don't probably need any of this. We just need an empty directory.
Okay. Here we go. So
this is our empty project. So the first thing we want to do now is to start pulling in dependencies. If I say npm or I say yarn to you, would you know what I'm talking about?
Those are the packaging systems, right? NVM
Mhm.
is for Node,
Correct.
Yarn, I don't know.
This is why Node is, well, it depends on how you look at it, but I will
Mm-hmm.
tell you that Node is all but critical information, or at the very least know how to use Node is critical information for anybody who wants to do anything that is UI related to web today. Because
Mm-hmm.
as you said, the way that most people pull in JavaScript dependencies is through npm, and that is based on Node. And then quite a lot of the tooling, such as Webpack or other solutions such as Parcel or Rollup or so forth, are based on the same sort of technologies.
And the
So
Yarn supposed to be the same thing, right? It's
yeah,
just
Yarn
faster, or what is the
Yarn
difference?
is also a package manager. You can pick whichever you want. I usually use npm because it's the default,
Mm-hmm.
but you can use Yarn as well. Do you have Node installed on your computer? I'm assuming you
Yes,
do.
I do.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do.
And that
It's somewhere in there.
do you have Yarn installed, or I know that you have npm installed if you have Node.
I do have a Yarn somewhere as
Okay.
well.
All right, cool. Then we
Yarn.
can use Yarn if you prefer Yarn. So
I
what?
I don't care. Oh crap! Yeah, it's there. I meant the version, but yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. I'm not sure if you can do Yarn in it, but the first thing we want to do is to say we want to initialize this project, right? So
Mm-hmm.
let's say npm init, because that at least I'm familiar with. I've never tried to create a package JSON file with Yarn. Probably might be
Okay.
possible, but it doesn't matter.
I don't like the directory where I'm at. Bum, bum, bum.
Isn't that the right one?
Yeah. What is in? Oh, whatever. I can fix it off the cam. We can go. We can continue. I can
Okay.
you know,
All
make the
right.
housekeeping later.
All right. So just type in npm init because we want to initialize this project. So what we're doing now is that we're just starting up a project that actually has the capacity now to use npm. And that's what the
Mm-hmm.
package JSON is there for, so that we can actually create a list of dependencies. So here it's going to ask you for package name. I usually just, since we don't really care, you can just hit enter. We can call it
Yeah,
package
and
name.
then it will be React, right?
Yeah, exactly. The name of the package will
Mm-hmm.
be React.
And it says React because I'm creating it inside of the React folder, right? That's why.
Exactly.
Okay.
So it's not, that might be confusing to you now, but because we call it React, but if you had called it
Mm-hmm.
foobar, the package name would be foobar.
Mm-hmm. Package name you said. So this is setting the package name
Yeah, you can
right now.
change it. We can change it later. I just want to go through this
Mm-hmm.
installation process. Version 1 is fine. You can basically just click through all of this.
Oh, I have to. Okay, I did not know. Description, none.
You don't care about this.
Entry point index.js. We don't have it yet, but it's okay. Test command.
Doesn't matter.
Test.
It's just gonna
Git
if you want,
repository.
you can just continue.
Keywords. Okay, you said click through it, right? Is this
Yeah,
okay? Oh, and this is the okay. So it will generate the package.json,
exactly.
and I see it is in the JSON format, of course. And oh, okay. So, and this is where we can change it, right? Okay.
Mm-hmm. So now you
Good.
should have a package JSON file. So let's go
Mm-hmm.
and open that.
Okay. So I'll minimize this. Then here's
There
our
we are.
package JSON.
And this is just a JSON file which holds the package information, because what we have in essence done now is that we've just created a package structure for our project, and that allows npm to
Mm-hmm.
do certain things. You see that there's a script section there on line 6. So
Yes,
if
sir.
you run test, and in this case it's going to fail because we changed
Mm-hmm.
the script, but here we would, in the script section, just create a script alias. It's very similar to, like, if you work with Maven or Makefiles or anything like that. It's just a convenience tool. So if you if you go to line 7 there and you just
Mm-hmm.
type echo in the
Instead
JSON,
of
yeah, exactly, and you can say echo
the
hello.
non-project files protection one, this file does not belong to the project. What? I want to edit all
You
files
haven't
in this
added it, it was
directory.
generated. It wasn't generated through
Okay.
IntelliJ most likely, so IntelliJ has lost track of it. So here you can just type out echo foo or something like that. It's a JSON file, so you need to put everything in. If you look at the rest of the file, you'll see that everything is in double quotes.
In double quotes, all right.
Yeah, so remove the double quotes around foo.
Like so. Then it's still complaining.
And the semicolon isn't supposed to be there.
Oh, habit. Okay.
Nice. And then you can go down to your terminal again and you can run npm test.
npm.
Oh, you can run yarn test as well. But as you can see here, yarn test, and you'll see that it's printed foo. It's the same thing with npm. It's the same. It will act the same way. And so this is a way for you to create different scripts that you use as part of your work process. Now, a very common one is test, and I know another one that's very common is like start. If you're building a node server or something like that, you usually kick off the server, you start the server through npm start.
Yeah.
So,
and I will go to the package.json to find out what are these all scripts and configuration
yes.
is.
So
okay.
whenever you go into a new front-end project or node project or anything like this should be your first stop. Oh, well, you can call it the second stop if you want to look at the README first if somebody has documented something, but this is the most important file.
Can it have a different name, or is it always package.json?
Always. It's always package.json.
Okay.
It's by convention. And it's always going to be in the root of the project, unless there are other like there can be sub packages. You can put another package JSON. We can create a subdirectory, like something else, and then just run npm init inside of there as well, if we wanted to. But in normal cases, it's always going to be at the top level, and it's always going to be called package.json. And then if we add dependencies, this is the place where this is going to happen. So let's run yarn install react.
Okay.
So that's going to take a moment. No lock. Oh, sorry. Yeah, it's add with yarn. Just to write the yarn add react. That should be fix it. Install, I think, is just to grab all the dependencies once you have them. There we are.
Okay.
So now, if you refresh the package.json file.
How do I do that? I don't know.
You can probably do it on the
reload
project.
from disk. Okay, here we go.
Yep. And now you'll see that you have a dependency, which is
Oh,
React.
nice. Okay.
And you should also see, if you refresh the project view, that you have a directory called node modules.
No, not copy.
Oh,
I wanted to
you
refresh.
should have. Yeah.
I have a yarn log, and how do I freaking? Normally I would do.
Can you type dir in your terminal?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
you see that there's node modules there.
How come I don't see it? How do I refresh?
It might be under external libraries or something. I'm not sure how intelligent.
No.
Ah.
No, it should be here. It should be. I'm sure it's supposed to be here. What if switch views? No. Okay. Here we go. So
there it is.
That and oh, now I know, because it doesn't think it belongs to the project, I think. I can fight with IntelliJ later. I will keep it
it's
in
not
this
that
view.
important. If you open the node modules directory there, you'll see here that you have a bunch of stuff inside of this directory, and you'll see that it's like prop types, React, object assign, loose env tokens, and then there's a .bin. If you click the .bin,
you'll
see here that there are a few command line tool. So basically the structure of a node modules directory is that at the top level you will always find all the packages that you are actually you have all the dependencies at the top level.
Mm-hmm.
So here React is going to place itself and all the stuff that React depends on in order to be able to provide the functionality that you're looking for. So this is where usually you'll hear this very often when someone says if you're working on a big project and people are pushing code and they're adding dependencies and all of a sudden your code doesn't work and they say, oh, just remove like sudo rm rf node modules and reinstall them and then that should work again because they upgraded the version or something like that. And that's usually this directory. They just ask you to remove this and then run yarn install or npm install again, pull down all your packages again. And in the bin folder, you will find binaries or other commands that you will run as part of the stuff that you install. And we're going to see that in a moment when we install Webpack.
Okay.
Well, we don't have to use Webpack, but I suggest that we use Webpack because it's, for better or for worse, one of the more common bundlers out there. And it's probably the best one for learning purposes, at least here. Because the other ones are very convenient. I mean, rollup and parcel is very nice. It makes everything very simple, but at the same time, it doesn't really teach you all that much. So, what we're gonna do exactly? We should add a few other dependencies now because we only have React, and React is not enough because we need React DOM as well, if you remember, because React is just a library that takes care of rendering out all our elements, but we need React DOM to bootstrap those elements to the page.
Okay. So now I fire up this one. This is the correct way?
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely. You can add Webpack as well, and you can add React DOM as well, because just to make that clear, React is the library that allows us to create all of these elements, and React DOM is the thing that's going to render it out to the page. And and then Webpack is our bundler, which is another part of the whole equation that we're going to have a look at.
Okay, so another is yarn and that was React
-DOM.
-DOM. Okay,
yes.
Thank you.
Like so.
Keep up.
So now we're installing the library that will render the thing to the, or well, not render it, but it will bootstrap the element. Cool. So now what we want to do is that we want to create some way for ourselves to actually make this code available somehow, so that we can actually see what we're so we can actually see what's actually we need some way to just serve up this content. Now we can create a web server if we wanted to, but we can also just use a static file, like a static HTML file to start off with, because I think it's even easier. So if you now create a index.html file here in the root.
Here in the root, okay.
Yeah, it doesn't really matter where we place it.
Okay.
And here you'll see that, here's just a file. Let's create a div element or something like that. Yeah, that we can hook into.
Div element, right.
Inside of the body.
Yep.
And then you can give that div element an ID or something like that. So like ID root or something like that, so that we have something to hook into. Nice. So now we've set up like the base structure of everything. Like we have React, we have React DOM, and then we need Webpack or some other way of creating a output. Well, you don't necessarily need Webpack per se, but this is probably most in line with how you're going to work with this if you're going to do it live in a real work environment.
The Webpack is some kind of packaging, optimizing thing, downsizing the payload, right?
No, it can do that, but in essence, what
Mm-hmm.
it is a bundler. So what a
Mm-hmm.
bundler does is that it allows you to connect all of your different files. So you've seen probably a few times where you write import. So you want to import React into your file so that we can write something out, or you import some function from one place to another, you import a component from one place to another. And this is very in JavaScript. This is not possible today. Like or rather, with an exception, we have JavaScript modules that allows us to do this thing,
Okay.
which is a different topic. But for all intents and purposes, when you have all these imports, you don't really have a way for the browser to know how to connect all of that together.
Mm-hmm.
And so what you want is a compiler of some sort. Technically,
Okay, so just to check if I understand, so the browser gets some like JavaScript files, but there is like no known connection for between them. Is that correct?
exactly.
Okay, okay,
So
okay. Mm-hmm.
until very recently, there is an exception to this rule, which is JavaScript modules, but that's a separate topic. So let's just ignore those for now because they
Okay.
are special. But for most people, the understanding is this: the browser doesn't know if you say import React in your JavaScript file and then you include a script
Mm-hmm.
tag here in your HTML document. The browser has no idea what you're talking about. It's just, okay, import React. How do I get that? Well, you have to have a URL or something, or you have to. And normally, it's been the case that, all right, you have to have your scripts loaded as part of script tags in order to get it on the page. If you're in Angular land, this is very common. You know that you push different modules onto different scripts, and then you load them each one after the other, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the way that we can avoid this is to use a bundler, because until,
Mm-hmm.
well, there's an exception to this rule as well, which is HTTP2, but that's also a sophisticated topic, so let's just stick with what's normal today.
Mm-hmm.
What's
Okay.
normal is that you're on HTTP 1.1 or something similar, and in that scenario, it's actually more efficient for us to bundle all of our files together into one big file and send that file over as one big transfer, because that's going to go faster in general terms than loading each script individually. And the other thing that's very nice about that is that if you have a really large code base, it's going to be a
Mm-hmm.
real big problem for you to figure out, if you were to import every script by itself, in which order should all the scripts go. And maybe you have, I mean, my project at work, we have thousands of files. If we're gonna remember how
Mm-hmm.
to put all of those in the right order so that each comes after the other, that's gonna be a
Mm-hmm.
hassle. So what the bundler does is that it compiles our JavaScript code. We give it an entry point. It's the same thing that Java does or any of these compiled languages. We just give it an entry point, and with a bunch of imports and stuff like that, and that creates a big graph of dependencies, or a tree,
Mm-hmm.
depending on how you look
Mm-hmm.
at it. And then it compiles it all together into one big super file, and then, as you were saying, then we can optimize that code, and we can do all kinds of other useful stuff that makes the code run much faster when the
Mm-hmm.
browser has the code. So that's
Mm-hmm.
what we're going to do now. We are going to
Okay.
create an entry point, and then we're going to compile that code into something that can run in the browser, or at the very least, we're just going to try to do that. So if you go now and you create a webpack.conf.js file in the root of this project, we can actually go to the documentation for Webpack as well if you want to see it, but I should know most of this by heart. I might forget something. This is one of those benefits of making a lot of small videos, because I have to do this 100 times over every single, I don't know how many times I've done this. I still forget sometimes. I do. I still have to go to
Of
the
course.
documentation. But that's what's so great about making these little videos, because I have to make another one, another one, another one.
Yeah. I forgot meanwhile the name of the file which I supposed to create. What was it?
Webpack.conf.js. This is a convention name as well. If you're dealing with a Webpack project, you're usually this is also what you're
Mm-hmm.
going to find. You're going to see a webpack.conf.js file in the root of the
Mm-hmm.
project. So now, this is just a JavaScript file. Webpack configurations are expressed in a normal JavaScript file. So what we want to do now is that we want to create the configuration for Webpack. And I think that it might be clearer if we actually look at the documentation example for this. I can't just tell you exactly what to write, but I think it makes it's probably easier, or rather we can go through each section of a configuration. So if you go to the Webpack homepage, so this is kind of what I was explaining earlier. You'll see here that you have all these different assets and all of this good stuff, and Webpack just knows how to connect all of this together and on the other side of things spit out the stuff that you actually want. So it's not an exact, it's not completely correct to say that this is a compiler, but it's a fairly easy, like it's close enough, so you can call it a compiler if you want. But technically it's a
and the correct term is bundler.
A bundler. Yeah, the correct term is bundler. So if we scroll down now, you should find somewhere on this page, yeah, here are some code examples, and you'll see down there with the config. Without config, provide custom Webpack configuration. So the Webpack config there, you'll see that it says, okay, const path require path module.exports equals entry output, etc. You can copy paste this, and then we can just start here if we want.
Okay.
And then you'll see on the right side there, oh yeah, paste it in.
Okay.
And so you'll see here that when it says bundle it, it says that on the left side I have the configuration, and on the right side is my HTML page. So if we just look at the left side first, so it says module.exports, and we should recognize that from Node.js development. That's just the way how we through CommonJS, I think, yeah, it should be CommonJS, we express that, oh, I want to export this content. I want this content to be importable from somewhere else, so I can actually require this information somewhere else. Now, we're not going to require the Webpack configuration, but the Webpack runner or the bundler itself is going to use this code. So, and this is inside of that, and you see that we have an entry point and we have some output. This is just how we, through a JavaScript file, express to Webpack what we want it to do.
Entry, that would be the source code, which then will be bundled to this guy over here, right?
Exactly. So what's going to happen is that the entry, that should be a path that points at the start of our program, our React application. And the output, as you were saying, is where we want Webpack to spit out the compiled bundle, and that's the file name bundle.js. So in our HTML page, we need to add a script for the place for that file. So we can call it dist/bundle if we want. So go to the HTML page.
Okay.
And let's add a script here at the bottom. It's called, which points to dist/bundle.js.
Now we okay.
Cool. So now but we don't have the file right now. So we need to create the entry point. So if we go and look at our configuration again, you'll see that in the source/index.js file, that's where we're going to find our entry point. So we are going to have to create that folder, or we can change the path and just create an index.js file. It doesn't really matter.
Okay. Done.
Cool. And now we want to put some code in here so that we actually know that this works. We can just say alert1 or alert hello world. This is just a JavaScript file. So let's create.
That is just alert.
Yeah, let's just create some code that will run when this comes to goes to the browser. Nice. So now let's try to run npx webpack. I'm sure John has a X.
Webpack.
Yeah, Webpack.
Webpack. And you wanted to try the Yarn version of it?
Yeah, you can run.
Okay.
I think you should be able to just run Yarn Webpack as well.
Okay. It's doing something.
Yeah,
do you want to install Webpack CLI?
Yes.
Yes, please.
Yes, you want to do that because we don't have
Yes.
the CLI.
That is command line interface, right?
Yes.
For the people who doesn't know, CLI is the thing that lives in your command line.
Yes. And there we are. And you'll see now that it actually said entry point main equals main.js 21 bytes. So if you refresh your project view again now, you should see that there should be a dist folder. There it is. Let's open up that.
Mm-hmm.
And let's open up that main.js file. And you see that there is a bunch of code here. Yeah. So there was your whoop whoop. Actually, that's inside of all of that stuff. Now I am not a Webpack core contributor, so I'm not gonna tell you all of what this is, but this is basically the overhead that Webpack adds to you, because what Webpack tries to do is that it creates modules for all of your pieces of code, and then it loads those modules together.
What's the overhead?
All this, I can't tell you exactly what all of this does, but
no, I mean the term, like overhead.
Overhead.
What does it mean?
Overhead means, well, it practically means extra stuff, things that are needed in order to do something else. So an example would be if you want to be able to, what should we call it? If you want to run this code here, you need all this extra code as well, because Webpack requires this extra code in order to work with its module system. So that's the overhead you pay. In other words, you really only want to run your script, but Webpack needs to add some extra stuff on top, because otherwise it won't be able to do the thing it's doing. So that's what it does.
And this extra part is called overhead.
Yeah.
Okay.
Paying taxes is an overhead on running a business. Like, you don't want to pay taxes, but in order for you to be allowed to run a business, you should pay taxes. It's the same thing. It's just something that you don't really care about, but you have to do, or to do the thing you want to do.
Is there a difference between overhead and boilerplate?
Yes. So overhead would mean that you boilerplate is something that you just need to include yourself, and that is usually what we call boilerplate, is just standard stuff that just needs to be there for something to work. But overhead can be more than that. It can be all kinds of other stuff. An example would be if you run if you run, say, Java, well, then there is a performance hit, because you're running on the JVM instead of running native code directly on the machine. Because if you were just running it natively, it would be the closest thing in execution speed. So there's a performance overhead. There's no it's not boilerplate, because boilerplate would be to have to write out in just exactly the same thing over and over again. They're very similar. So some people may say, oh, it's boilerplate or it's overhead. But overhead is usually a term we use when we say this thing here requires extra stuff in order to work. And boilerplate is this is stuff that we have to write every single time the same way. Or it's the same.
Got it.
That's pretty much it. It's probably not the most accurate description in the world, but it's the best one I can give you. So
it's good enough for me.
Yeah, all right, cool. As long as you understand and you feel like you get it, then I'm happy. So what you're seeing right now is compiled, or it's a bundled code, is where your script is included. So if you now open up the index.html file in your browser, you can probably just drag and drop it over.
Maybe I know this thing. Okay.
All right. So it says something. But it didn't. If you open up the
alert, right?
No, I think it's you need to add a / to the dist, the script there. I'm pretty sure.
Oh yeah. So we are here. Yeah. So current directory.
Exactly.
Like so, save. And I will reload. And nothing happened.
If you go,
okay, maybe I have to save it. And now reload. No.
if
Okay.
you open up the inspector, I'm interested in just
Mm-hmm.
oh, it says, but yeah, that's the problem. It says bundle.js, and the file that we outputted is called
Is
main.
main.js.
Yeah, so that's the problem. So if you go
Okay,
to the Webpack configuration,
how come? Because in our configuration, if I remember correctly, we said bundle.js and we have a main.js. How can I understand it? How come?
that is really weird. That is oh, might there be a typo in the file name? I am unsure now, but yeah, change the file name from the name file name to give it a capital N on name in file name, like in the property name there. File name. I'm just
Like
guessing
that.
now, but I'm unsure.
Okay.
No,
It
no,
looks like
no, it should be
it
that.
should be
It should be that.
this.
What?
Yes.
That is very weird.
Uh,
Uh-huh.
yeah, I was confused because I remember we said bundle and now it
Yeah,
says
I know.
main.
I'm not sure here. Maybe for some reason it didn't pick up this configuration file correctly, or
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure, actually.
How can I tell if it did pick up or
Well, it
didn't?
says main there, so
It says main here, and here maybe we can webpack. How about trying to build it with not with yarn but with npm? Well,
I don't
I'm
think
just
that now you can. Yeah, it shouldn't. That shouldn't matter. But yeah, you can try it. So you can
okay.
run npx webpack. That shouldn't matter. I'm very confused
N
now.
npx
npx.
npx okay
Yes.
npx webpack.
And now it should spit out. It still says main. The mode
Still,
option has been.
yeah, it still says main. And path must be string received undefined.
Okay. So the
Okay.
entry point is might be the issue there.
Source index received undefined. This is not undefined. This is a string.
Yeah, but it's
Array, object, or string. We are providing string, but he still doesn't like it.
pass dir name. No, I'm pretty sure that this should be correct.
Yeah, they even have it. Yes, module export, that is an entry. Okay, what is like, and it, if I say this, it will not like me, but I wonder if that doesn't help me now.
It might be. Can you try something?
Sure.
On the line 4, remove the string there and write path.join.
So join.
Path as in path as the module that we have imported. Path.
Oh, path. Uh-huh.
Yeah. Path.join, then underscore underscore dir name inside of the parentheses.
Uh-huh. Dir name. Okay.
Colon space string source, and then colon slash, no, not with the slash, and
Okay.
then colon slash colon string index.js. Let's try
Okay.
that, and let's try to run this again.
Okay.
I just wanna make sure that this is not some weirdness with the Windows. No.
Okay. Done. Note. If I do reload from disk, it says main again.
Can you add a mode? You just write in mode development in our configuration here. Just add a property code so we can get away from that. Warning.
That is a string.
Yeah, development.
Comma. Okay.
And you can rerun it again. And that should.
Version, build size, main.js again. And warning, mode option has not been set. The bug will fall back to production for this value. Set mode option to development or production.
So
that is development. Did I misspell it?
No.
Development.
Go to the documentation, just check where the mode should be set, because I'm pretty sure that it should be at the top level, but I can't even remember where it should go.
Okay, where do I, like here I go to documentation?
Yep.
That's where I go, okay.
And you should be able to search for mode. In the configuration. If you go to configuration next to concepts, at the top of the screen. And then you search for mode. Yeah.
Mode, production.
Development. I'm wondering if this is picking up something else, because this doesn't make any sense to me. Can you type out npx webpack -- config and then point it at that file?
Config, okay, and our is at, but here, okay, so that will be dot slash.
Sorry, it says conf, that's the problem. Change webpack.conf.js to webpack.config.js. That's why.
That's why. Here we go. That's good. Found it.
Yeah.
Non-project failed. Proceed anyway. Yes. Thick.
There we are. Good. Try it now. It should work now without having to specify the config file.
Yeah, webpack.
There we are.
Bundle.js. Here we go. Reload.
We would have most likely found this problem very quickly if we didn't use the defaults, because the defaults are just going to work, because that's the whole point. Like as I was saying there earlier in the link, it's you can do this without a custom config as well, but we want to do it with a custom config. So okay, cool. So now it works. So the bundler has now taken our entry point and converted it into, I pulled it in and created a bundle.js file, which is just a combination of all the modules that we're going to have in our code, and this loads all kinds of assets and other scripts that we can use when we actually are going to run this in the browser. So that's what's happening now. The thing that we need to do next is that we need to pretty much teach Webpack how to deal with React, because if you let's go to our index.js file and let's change the index.js file.
Okay. Index.
And now let's import React, and let's actually try to use React and React DOM. So if we say import React from React, capital R, well, it doesn't really matter,
but capital R.
Yeah.
Or
it's just usually how you write it out, but it doesn't really matter. You can do it lowercase as you want. From string React. Lowercase React. The module is lowercase.
Okay.
Like so. So now you have React, and then we need to import React DOM.
That is kebab case, gamma case. How does it go?
Yeah, exactly like that. It doesn't really matter. You can write it out how you like. and then dash DOM because it needs to have the same name as the package. Cool, and now we can add just a small little application here.
So this is the name which would be represented in here, and this is the name of the exported module, right?
Yes, so we've imported React, which is going to take care of the JSX for us, and React DOM is the thing that is, as you were saying, it's going to help us render it out to the DOM. So now, if you take and remove line 3 there, and we add a React component, let's just create a very simple application, like const app equals function that returns an h1 that says hello world. Convention is, remember that every and component names start with a capital A. And const is needs to be respelled. There we are. Yes. And now we reach a h1. And inside of there you can just say something exactly. And then if we make some more space under line 6 there, and then we say React DOM.render.
So we do...
no, outside of the function. You need to render out this information now. So React DOM. No, the underscores shouldn't be there. We need to reference the imported module React DOM.
Okay. Oh, come on. There we go. React DOM.
And render. Which is
just like this.
Yeah, it's a function. And if you have a look inside of render, there should be, it takes 2 input parameters.
Could you repeat it, please?
If you look inside, if you look at the signature of the render function, I hope that IntelliJ can help you see that it's going to take 2 parameters. One parameter is we're using JavaScript, just plain old JS here, so it might confuse it. Okay, I wanted to wait with this, but change the index.js name of the file to index.jsx.
JSX.
Yeah,
okay.
I didn't know. I wanted to. Well, that's my. I wanted us to get there in several steps, but this might make it more confusing if we can't figure out what it should take.
Okay.
So hopefully now IntelliJ should be able to tell you what's inside of the render, what the render function needs. Can you give me, if you just hover the render function? Nothing. Okay, then all right.
I think it still have a problem that this belongs or doesn't belong to the project.
Yeah, it can't index it. All right, it doesn't matter. I can do this from memory.
Okay.
I already know it. So create a add in the application component as the first parameter to render.
The what? The app?
Create a component. You remember how we did that? We did it with we created an HTML tag with the name of the component inside of it. So if you do greater than app slash closing tag app, that's going to give us a React element.
Oh, okay.
Exactly.
Like this, okay.
Yeah. And since you don't have anything that you pass in, there's no children, you can just shortcut it and immediately just say if you go exactly like that. And then as the second input, we want to give a reference to the DOM element that we need in order to render out the application. So here we can say document.getElementById root, because that's, if you remember, the element that is in the HTML. Document is spelled with the lowercase d.
The document, okay. Document dot get element by ID, and I set root element. I think.
You can double check it in the HTML. Yep.
Yeah.
All right. So now we have the basic structure for our React application. This is now our entire app, pretty much. So you can change the index.jsx back to index.js, and that's for a good reason. We're going to get there as well. There we are. So now, if you try to rebundle with Webpack now, if you just try to run Webpack again, it's going to complain. And it's going to complain. Yeah, you can read through the message. What is it?
I need an appropriate leader to handle this file type. Currently, no leaders are configured to process this file. See, and oh, that's nice. There's a page which I can look to. Const app return, and okay, and here's the problem, and that is this file. Okay, error command file with execute to info visit for documentation for this command.
So you'll see here that it points to the return statement there. And the reason why it's pointing to the return statement and why it's upset about the return statement is because in JavaScript there is no h1 tag. The syntax doesn't make any sense to JavaScript, and that's what Webpack does by default. It's going to look at, since this is a JavaScript file, it expects JavaScript to be inside of that file. But there is, like, when you write React code, unless we write this as native JavaScript, there is no way for the bundler for Webpack to know how to convert JSX code, which is a React thing, into just normal JavaScript. Now, if you remove the h1 and just return a string, try that.
Can I do? This is where we are heading, right? Or
yeah, you can do something like that. And let's try to run it again now. Try to do this again.
Okay, running the Webpack.
And now it's going to complain again.
Currently no loaders configured. React DOM render app document get element root element command failed with execute.
Because the app again if it's on line 8, we also use this weird JSX syntax. So instead of giving it like just an app like that, try to just give it a function call. So change the app component to app just function with 2 parentheses at the end.
Call to the okay.
And then let's try to run this again with Webpack. And let's go to your application. Ta-da!
Hey.
So why this is working now is because all this code is just normal JavaScript. That's why the browser knows what to do, because it's just JavaScript. But when we were using the h1 tags and the app tag, that's JSX, and JSX it's a language basically. It's a markup language than anything else. That only works as part of the browser if it gets converted to normal JavaScript, and that's what we need the loader for. That's what the Webpack can help us with. So if we define a loader that knows that, oh, when I'm bundling, like when Webpack is pulling in all of these files and trying to make them into a bundle file, well, if you add a loader, well, that loader can then check, oh, there's a line here that is JSX, but okay, let's convert that to just normal JavaScript. Does that make sense to you? We need something that knows how to convert our h1 tags and our app tag from JSX to JavaScript. Webpack doesn't know how to do that, but we can add a loader that knows how to do that. Does that make sense? Yes.
Okay. So the loader, that is some piece of software or whatever which
someone
converts
has written that. Exactly. The loader is built by someone else. It's just a little hook that looks at when we parse this file and try to include it.
And it takes the JavaScript file, which we renamed the extension to JSX, and somehow will parse it and produce something which is digestible to the
Yes, exactly.
browser. Okay.
It will parse it and it will convert it into normal JavaScript. And in a future video, we can go really deep and we can actually go in and check what this looks like if you want. But let's keep it high level for now. So revert the changes you just made so that we're back to just having JSX code in here. Like so. So now we need a way to turn this JSX code into normal JavaScript. So let's go to our Webpack.
Should I rename the file as well to JSX?
Not for now, because because there are configurations involved there as well. Because if you just have a JS file like that, it's going to work out of the box. Otherwise, we're going to have to do some trickery. Anywho, let's go back to our Webpack configuration file and have a look there. So now we need a loader. A loader is just something that knows how to take one sort of import or something and turn it from one type of file into another type of file. So no, that's it's actually
that's not it.
Try it because Webpack is very nice here. Webpack is because they had so many complaints about people not understanding their configurations. And with good reason. It's it is a complicated configuration, but they actually added a really nice feature. If you try to run this now as just like it is, it should tell you something, I hope. And no, okay, no, it's
work in progress.
It will exactly. It's a work in progress. But usually, what they will do is that if you change a property, usually it will tell you that this configuration here is actually wrong. They will validate your configuration just to tell you that there's no key called this or there's nothing called that. But basically, the syntax we want is module::object, and inside of there we're going to add something called rules. So if you change loader to modules, module::object, like create an object. Yeah, and then you create an object, and then you say rules inside of that.
I will create an object, and here I'll do rules.
Exactly.
Okay.
And inside of here, there's an array. And if we have a look at the documentation, hopefully that's going to show us an example of how this can work, because I hope we can get like an example with just more than one loader, because we're going to add one loader, but I think for learning purposes it's better to see more than one loader. So if you go to the documentation, and hopefully if we scroll down there, you'll see rules. Yes. Here you see a bunch of rules. If you scroll down even further, you'll see that there's more than one rule there. So you'll see this really big object that it says test, and then it is a regex, which checks for a JS possibly X check there. Do you see that line? And then even really far down on the page, there's another test which says HTML, ends with HTML. So this is what a rule is. A rule is just like this array here is just a sequence of objects that Webpack will have at its disposal. So when it's importing files and just pulling together all these modules, it will run a check against the file that this test has specified and just check, should I use this configuration or this loader configuration on this file when I import it? Yes or no. And so if in this regex, you see that in the first case, we're going to run that loader on any file that ends with JS or X, like JSX or JS. So that's what we're going to use there. And in the second part, we see that there's another rule that is for HTML files, and it's going to check, is this an HTML file? Well, okay, if that's an HTML file, do these things. So what we're going to do now is that we're going to create the same rule pretty much as the first example here. And if you see if you just copy paste that section there, we're not going to have all those comments because there's a bunch of excess stuff that's just there for documentation.
Sure. So I'll take the first object.
Yes.
That goes here. Okay, I will paste it,
Yep.
remove the comments. Those go away. Is this okay?
Exactly. So here we have one loader. You can remove the enforce, the issuer,
So
and
enforce, issuer,
and the include. You can remove that as well.
include. Okay.
Well, you can you remove the exclude as well for now, because we don't have to go like really balls deep into every single little thing. So here is the basics of what we're interested in. So here we've decided that, all right, there's a test that checks for a file extension that ends in JS or JSX. And if that happens, we're going to use the Babel loader. Now, Babel is a transpilation library. So what that allows us to do is Babel knows how to convert some type of code, something like React or JSX code, into JavaScript. That's the job of Babel. It knows how to turn one set of code into another set of code, which is just usually plain old JavaScript. And so we can use Babel to do this. There's other loaders that we could use as well, but Babel is probably the most famous one. It's the norm, I would say. So if we go to the web again and we have we can install a Babel loader first. If you go down
so that will be yarn
add Babel loader.
Babel loader, like this?
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
Done.
So now we could try to run this, but it's not going to work. So if you try to run this, it should say something. If you say yarn webpack, we scroll up here.
Module build failed. Cannot find module Babel core.
Yes, so we've installed the loader that knows how to take care of the webpack integration, but we haven't installed Babel. In other words, the tool that actually does the transpilation. So we need to also install that, and then you can simply look at the module there at babel/core and install that as well.
Okay. So I will do yarn add, and that will be Babel core or dash core, like this?
At babel/core.
At, okay. What does this at means in the land of the yarn and npm and?
It's just a group syntax. Previously
like a namespace or whatever?
Exactly. It's just a namespace. So the Babel contributors, they have a suite of projects. Maybe you have multiple different packages, and which is the case for Babel. So they have many different plugins and different modules, but they want to just express that, oh, this falls under the Babel namespace.
So, okay, so, and it works. It's alive. Cool.
Nice. So let's try it again. Webpack, yarn webpack. Still not going to work. And now it's going to complain on something else.
Cannot find module Babel preset ES 2015.
So presets is a different thing. Let's just remove that for now. Let's remove the presets. If you go and you can, rather comment it out, because we're going to need it. So the options there, just comment out.
Here?
Yeah, just remove that. And try it again.
Okay.
And let's go and see what happens.
So error in index.js, module build failed. Here's the path, syntax error, and it complains about the h1 tag which we provided. Okay, Unexpected token, so he did not quite expect. So this should be the JS6, so he knows. Maybe. I'm
Yes.
guessing.
Yes.
Okay.
But the thing about Babel is that it does not ship out of the box with an understanding for how to parse JSX code. So that's where the presets come in. We need to add a preset, or rather we had to add another library to tell Babel how to actually deal with React code. But no, the presets are already, it's in the array there. So the way that you can declare it in many ways, you can have a Babel RC file, or you can add it into Webpack like this. It doesn't really matter. It's for all intents and purposes equivalent. But let's go to Google and search for Babel React preset or something like that, because there is a specific plugin that we need for that. I think it's preset React or something. Yeah, exactly. There you are. So if you go into that, you'll see that this is the plugin that you use in order to deal with React. So you can see the installation down there if you scroll down. So that's how you install it. You can use Yarn, of course, but
Okay, so that will be yarn at. What about these save dev dash save dash dev? What is that's needed too, or
it's not
like
needed.
what does it do?
I will explain. You don't need it. You can just add Babel presets React, and we will talk about the preset or the save dev.
Sounds to me like profile, you know.
So
Okay.
if you use save dev, what you're saying is that because if you go to the package.json file, and let's say that you install a dependency, you see here that it says dependencies, and we already have a dev dependency, which is down there. Now, the difference between a dependency and a dev dependency is when you actually want to run the production version of installing all your dependencies. Because if you're going to package this application with all the dependencies you need when you are running in production, well, then you don't want the stuff that may not be needed. An example would be Webpack is in our dependencies, but we don't care about Webpack when we are running our production code because Webpack is pointless. It's just something we use to create that bundle file that it will run then in production code. So if we were to publish this as a package on npm, the repository, it would create a situation where if someone wants to use our code, well, then they're going to have to install Webpack and all this other Babel loader and Babel presets and Babel core, and that's not really what they want. It's just going to be a bunch of code that they don't need because when we publish this,
it's already bundled.
exactly. So the right place to put all the stuff that you use in the development process is in the dev dependencies, and the stuff that you actually need as part of the package when it's time to use it, that should be in dependencies. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, so that would put it inside of here instead of here, right?
Yes.
And yeah, that's the way why we are doing it, because we don't need this on the production, since that should not be run there. It should be already done. Okay, yeah, I know, I understand. I do understand.
Nice. So we don't have to change that now because we're not going to publish this and we're not going to like build it as a production thing, so it doesn't really matter.
Okay.
So let's go, and if you see there in the recommended with configuration, if you see in the description there, it says presets Babel preset React. That's the stuff that we want to add into our Webpack config.
Okay. Okay, so this is an array of strings normally.
Yes.
Right.
And that contains
Okay,
all
so
the different presets. You can just remove the like the comment.
Yes.
We don't need that, and the
Okay.
string as well. If
And
you see
what?
the double quotation marks. Yep.
This. Okay.
Save that, and now let's try to run Webpack again. And so now it has produced the bundle. If you now go to your Hello World application.
You mean
in the browser?
Okay.
My girlfriend says hi. She wants to thank you for the tea. It was she really likes it.
Oh, you need to get more than.
She's a bit of a tea nerd, so she has like I don't know how many teas, so she just picks the one she likes, and your bag there's a little bit left in your bag.
Oh, really? So we would understand each other very much. So
Yeah, I think
because
so. She loves tea. She really
I
loves
have
tea.
even formal training in well, not
You
so
have
much.
formal
No,
tea
seriously.
training. You have training in tea.
Yes. Yes.
He has
Yes,
formal
I
training
do.
in tea stuff.
That was my admitting exam lasted like 4 hours, and I was
4 hours for your exam.
and I was talking about like how it's manufactured, what are those differences. Then there was a blind test to,
You can
and
talk to
I
him later,
like
Princess, because he has like formal training and he took tests and stuff. Yeah, exactly. He knows a lot about tea.
not much, not much.
Yeah, you can have your own stream with him instead. Like I'll focus on the coding.
Let's
you
just
have?
leave that topic, okay?
Yeah, exactly. Why don't you have your own YouTube channel? You clearly know stuff that is worth watching more than my little channel at the very least, because I'm pretty sure that there are more people who are interested in tea than in React. But so you see now that what happened is that your code actually executed, and now the React application has switched out the element that we have in our HTML for this text.
Oh, nice, yeah.
So this is full circle now. We have created pretty much all the things for React. Like you have pretty much now set up a. We are not in the exact same state we were when we were using Create React App, because it also set up like TypeScript and stuff for us, and we can do that as well if you want to. But I can also see that this is it's a good stopping point for a first lesson, because this has been a lot of information.
Okay. Is that everything this like, or are there like more steps after those, like in setting up everything from the ground, or this is like all what goes in? I'm just asking.
This is everything you need to know pretty much in order to set up a JavaScript version of React. If you wanted to do this with TypeScript, there would be some extra stuff to do. And if you wanted to, as in Create React App, if you wanted to be able to use CSS modules or something like you saw that in our Create React App application, we could load in styles into our document. And we can't do that with this setup because we haven't told Webpack how to load in CSS files into our system. But we could do that as well if that's what we wanted to, because there's no styling now. For this to work, we would need to just use plain old CSS without loading it as part of our files. So we don't get that for free, but at the same time, that's not something we might want to do either. It depends on how we want to work. Like I personally, when I use my own projects or when I build my own stuff, I never use CSS modules or anything like that because it adds extra time to the bundling process.
Okay.
But yeah, you are pretty much now in a state where you could create, like this is you set up for React development from scratch. But there are more things we could be doing depending on how far we want to take it. But the stuff that we built, like the application we built, We could practically copy paste all that code into this project and just remove all the types from the TypeScript code and just use regular JavaScript, and it would work.
Understood.
Yeah.
Understood. Okay. Okay. Well, I can install VS Code for the next time.
You are free to use whatever ever text editor idea you want. I just
from time to time, I like to look around. Like I have heard nice things about VS Code. I haven't used it myself, so might have a look.
Yeah, it's for, I would say IntelliJ is certainly very nice for Java development, or like anything where you like, if you're just looking for a text editor, I think it's too much. But I use IntelliJ at work as well, like when I work with Scala. All right, but I think that this should be enough for you to understand the basics of how bundling works. So we can, of course, continue and we can add more stuff on top of here, or we can take a break and then we can come back in a new section and then have a look at Redux.
Okay. Okay. Sounds great. Sounds great. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
I do appreciate this.
No worries.
Yeah. That's it.
Yeah.
That's
Nothing more
it.
to say.
Yeah.
But you can take some time and digest this information, because now, like, this thing here that you're seeing here is it's the basics of what most, I would say, companies expect you to have a basic grasp of, at least. And there is a lot of people are using Create React App, but the truth is that this is how we used to do it. Like, it's pretty much I'm not saying that every single project uses Webpack, because it's not true, but this is something that you should have a understanding of, because it's so common that people actually use Webpack for all of this stuff. It's actually, I would say, in comparison, it's more common that you see people who build a really small personal project or something simple. A lot of them use Create React App or similar sorts of tools, but it's also very common to see this pattern. So it's kind of like, it's that situation that, if you learn a new language, you can express the same thing with multiple words, and you can say that, oh, I don't care about that, I only need one word to express that thing because I always use that word. The problem is that someone else might use the other words. You still need to know it, because it's highlight, otherwise you won't be able to talk to the person. And this is exactly the same thing. You kind of have to know this stuff, because the odds of you working on a product that uses Webpack is fairly high, even though Create React App is much simpler.
So that is some tool which kind of does all these steps for you, kind of like the IntelliJ did for me when we did the previous thing. Okay, so and that is some online tool. I can Google it, I think.
You can take a look at it. But that's the thing about Create React App. It's really all it really does under the hood. It does nothing else. It just does all this for you. We could do every single thing that Create React App does by just using Webpack if we wanted to, but we don't have to. If we use
you usually use the Create React tool, or you do it manually? Why?
I always do it manually, because I have I have a personal policy, where I never try to use too high level abstractions, because if you use abstractions that go too high, and at some point you actually forget how to do the thing without those tools, and that's very dangerous, because then you're actually learning how to use this magical tool instead of learning how it actually works.
I see.
And Create React App is also, in many cases, like with Webpack you can do everything. If you really understand Webpack, I'll give you an example. This week I've been, as part of some community work I'm doing for my company, the other developers that were going like, oh shit, our bundling time is so slow, how do we fix this? And I go, well, we can profile the bundling and like profile the Webpack configuration, and everybody goes, what's that? And I go, that's how you figure out what's taking time in Webpack, and nobody else really knows. There's like one or two people at the entire company who knows Webpack well enough to actually know what to do. I'm one of those people, and everybody else is just, oh no, we'll just have to give it, like, they don't know how it works, and that's kind of the point, like, because they don't know, and this is a core tool, they can't work without this tool, but they don't know what it does or how it works. They have someone else take care of it, and that's the same problem with Create React App. If you don't learn a tool that you depend on, you're going to be in a real big have a big problem when it's time for you to fix it. Now they're lucky because they have me, and I know how to fix it, and my other coworker knows how to fix it, but they are like, if we're sick or if we're not in the office, they have no idea how to deal with it.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm getting that point. Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. For some time, well, at university, I didn't even know like how to run the Java really. I just knew that I'm pressing the green button.
Yeah. But that's where you should forgive yourself a little bit there as well, because it depends a little bit on
It's
where
beginning.
Exactly. If you're a beginner, if you're just starting out, you just want to learn how React works, well, then you don't want to have to learn how Webpack works just to learn how to write a React application. So Create React App is perfect. Or if, say, for the sake of argument, we have another project, an internal project, where we use Create React App because we're literally just going to create an internal administrative tool, and it just needs to like work really, really quickly. So we just use Create React App. It just spits out everything, and because we're never going to change it, and then we have an application done. We don't have to think about it. But for the main product, we have a lot of optimizations. We have special loaders for certain types of tasks and stuff like that, and we really want to control every little piece. So we write it manually instead, because then we can actually tweak everything and we can control everything and fuck it up as well, and fuck it up really, really bad, because that's what we do. We fuck it up really, really bad.
That's how you learn, right?
Yeah.
Usually, like when you fuck it up, then you realize like, oh, there's actually something else which can. Yeah, but I didn't meant to like say it in like derogatory term, like put it down or whatever. But yeah, I think yeah, it makes sense to if you want to step it up a little bit to yeah, it makes sense, because you have the overview. No, I like it. I think I will do it too. To
Yeah.
write things manual.
It's up to you. Like for me, it's really, really fast because I've done it many times. So even if I forget something, it's usually very quick for me to just look it up, because I know what I know what this does. Well, not all, like I don't know every configuration but like the back of my hand, but I know enough to be able to be very productive with it. But for someone who's not productive with it, it's the same sort of problem. And I give the same advice when I talk about CSS. So there are a lot of people who swear about CSS in JS and like all these other abstractions, and I go, if you learn how to use, say, Bootstrap or some other UI framework, and you don't learn how to use CSS, you will never ever be a real professional software developer. And it's very simple, because what you're doing is that you are abstracting away the thing that people expect you to know. And in CSS it's much more dangerous, because in CSS, like here, you can kind of get away with it, but in CSS, if you don't know how CSS works, you literally don't know how the browser is actually displaying information or how it is laying out things. And that's dangerous, because then you really only know a tool, but you don't know the technology that you're working with all that well. It's core knowledge to know how CSS works, and even if it's very convenient, it's still something you'll have to learn. So I personally promote that you should stay, like, that's where I think the abstraction has gone too far, where you now have so many conveniences that it's like pretty much it's making you a worse programmer. You don't have to be, there's always a sweet spot. Nobody's going to expect you to learn assembly code to do web development, but learning how to use CSS instead of learning how to use Bootstrap is a very important thing.
Yeah, got it. Makes sense. Just using the Bootstrap reminds me of copy-paste programming, or how is it called, that you're putting in place the things you don't really understand.
Yeah, that's copy-paste.
Makes sense. Makes sense.
And
Makes sense.
so that's where I try to help people to understand that. I mean, it is subjective, and it is my own opinion, but it's usually very like I'll pat myself a little bit on the shoulder here and say that usually when I express an opinion like that, it's not because I want to make things hard on you. I just want to explain to you what the range of expectations are going to be in the world. If you have worked at one company and they use CSS and JS in that one company, well, unless you're staying in that exact company for the rest of your life, you're going to at some point switch jobs, and then the expectations might be different. And the only thing that we can do, and that's the problem with having too many tools, because if all of them are used equally depending on where you are, well, then you have to learn all of them. If there's one tool and everybody uses one tool, that's very easy. But if there's 500 tools and everybody uses all of them, you have to learn them.
Hmm.
It's hard. All right, but let's schedule a next session, and
Oh, that would be wonderful.
yeah, we will continue, and next time we'll take a look at Redux.
Yeah, let's chat about that in I don't know, in email or whatever, because I seems to have a row of weddings I'm going to, like 4 or something insane number. So and I don't have in my head which exact days I'm in and traveling and so.
Dude, this
What I'm saying,
is
yeah,
relaxed.
let's talk about it. I cannot say right now from the head. Which days
Don't
I'm
worry about it.
available
We
or
can
not.
do this whenever we have time. There's no
Okay.
there's no schedule here. It's just kind of free form. We just do it when we have time, and I mean, we'll just make it happen when we can make it happen. So I'll talk to you, well, whenever you have time for the next session.
Okay. Okay. As I already said, I do appreciate it. Thank you very much. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your patience and all the steps. Thank you.
No worries. Have a great day, dude.
Have a great day. Bye.
Bye.